Hi, this is Michael Bovey with DebtConsolidationCare.com, and with me today is Jerry Detweiler from Credit.com and Steve Rode from GetOutOfDebt.org.
Let's talk about bankruptcy. Let's do the math.
You know, when it comes to determining whether or not you can afford to avoid bankruptcy, the decision is often already made for you, and it's just down to dollars and cents. Can you afford to avoid bankruptcy, or are you really destined to need to file bankruptcy because the numbers just don't add up?
Let's look at the process itself. Some other debt solutions may take years and cost you a lot of money to get out of debt. Bankruptcy, if you file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, which about 70% of people do, can cost you less than $2,000, your debt can be discharged within 3 months, and you can begin to rebuild your credit immediately.
I know a lot of consumers say, well, I don't want to hurt my credit. But think about it this way. Let's say you're able to get rid of $50,000 in a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Is it worth paying $50,000 to hold on to your credit for a few more years? Because in a few more years, you're going to be able to start rebuilding credit. It is a financial decision, not necessarily a credit decision.
It's really just do the numbers. If you think about what you can afford to pay, you're not paying your bills right now, or you no longer can due to some kind of setback, and you're paying the $50,000 as Jerry suggested, over, say, 5 years in a credit counseling program, a debt management plan, where ultimately over that 5 years you're going to pay back about $56,000, $57,000 versus, as Steve suggested, under $2,000 and clear the debt in 3 months.
Look, if you can pay your debts, of course you should try to do that. But a lot of people get in situations where it's no longer possible, and they just keep throwing good money after bad.
And guys, one of the questions I always want people to answer when they come to me is, do you have a greater responsibility to try to fix the past or to fix the future? Sometimes looking forward and dealing with your situation is a much better thing to do. And bankruptcy is a quick and legal way to do that.
Michael, one of the comments I hear all the time is when someone files for bankruptcy, the rest of us are paying for that. What do you say to that?
That's a good point to bring up, Jerry, because banks already know that there's an acceptable amount of loss in their credit card portfolios. In fact, less than 5% historically fall delinquent. So that's built into their pricing. We've seen a spike recently because of the economic implosion, but it's factored in. So your neighbor is not paying when you can't pay your credit card bill.
The credit card business is still extremely profitable for most issuers. So, like you say, they're building in the cost of the credit, they're building in the risk that some people won't be able to pay those debts.
So, Steve, when we saw the changes to the bankruptcy laws in 2005, there was all this hullabaloo about how people were abusing the bankruptcy system and taking advantage of, getting free stuff. What's your comment to that?
When I was growing up, my dad told me that the two things you never want to see being made are sausage and laws, and he was absolutely right. That Bankruptcy Reform Act was a stinker. There was no need for it. People don't abuse bankruptcy. It is a legal process. It's screened by a bankruptcy attorney who makes sure they're qualified. They have to go before a bankruptcy trustee, and they have to answer to the court.
And if anything, I see people who really should be considering it and talking to a bankruptcy attorney, but are afraid to.
And guys, let's talk about hyperbolic discounting for a minute. 2 words that I love. Hyperbolic discounting says that people will make a decision that will affect them more today than in the future. And so when we're talking about bankruptcy, what I often see are people who want to avoid bankruptcy now, will liquidate all of their savings, clear out their retirement accounts, but never solve the problem. Then, when they end up retiring and being 70 or 80 years old and they have no money, who's paying then?